So I went ahead and I used the crop tool to crop the image, and I think a little bit more of a balanced and appealing way where I don't have too much white space on one side. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of this right here in this area. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you don't see too much trees on our neckline. We really just want to kind of see it where it's on the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and select our bottom area, and I'm going to go ahead and select our layering mask. Just grab our gradient tool. We're just going to kind of do a little bit of a lower blend there. Great. So now we're ready to add and apply color. So one thing we could do, we can brighten the image a little bit. So we can select our base image right here. Let's go ahead and put a woman. And let's go ahead and make, just going to image adjustments and doing some lightening. We can increase the brightness just a little bit to kind of bring out a little bit more of her highlights. We could reduce the contrast. So if we increase the contrast, it's going to make the shadows and the highlights have a higher contrast of each other. But if we reduce the contrast, things, the darker side of her face are going to kind of pop out a little bit more, and we want that. We want that. So I'm going to reduce the contrast and increase the brightness. We could do some other adjustments, but I think this photo is already professionally edited. I think it already has a nice balance between shadows and highlights. So let's go ahead and apply. We can do two things. I'm going to go down two different avenues. I'm going to do duotone effect, and then I'm going to go and apply some blending modes to paint on some dynamic color. So let's do duotone effect first. So I'm going to go to image, mode, and we want to make sure this is converted completely to grayscale. So we're just going image, mode, and we're just go to grayscale. We don't have to necessarily merge, but I like to click on don't merge and then discard. Just don't worry about that. Just go ahead and discard the color information. So because I clicked on not merge, do not merge, I still have access to all my layers, which is nice. But you could do either or if you feel like you don't want to edit after you're pretty much ready for color. Okay, so now we're going to go to image mode, and now all of a sudden we have duotone mode available. So we're going to go ahead and click on duotone. So we just went to image, mode, duotone, and you could do a monotone, which would just be one color, which can look cool. But I love duotones because you can add a combination of rich colors. So you could do a cool color and a warm color together, and it has an effect. And the darker you go, the more those shadows or deeper colors are going to go. The lighter you go, the more the highlights are going to be brought out. So just finding the right combination of different colors to use works out well. So you could do warm, you could do two. I like doing the warm and cool colors because it really adds that dynamic pop and effect. I don't want it to be too dark, so if I go down here to black it, it's a little too dark. But I go up here kind of in the middle tones, you kind of have a nice blend there. So I want to take a little bit of the pinkness away. So I'm just going to go up here to blue, maybe do a light blue. You know, whatever color palette you think would look good. I know purples are really huge right now, but I don't want to go super duper pink either. So maybe that kind of cool purple effect. So I'm going to go back into my history and kind of take a look at what we had before. So this is before. So that's just a typical black and white. This is after. So the duotone adds definitely a sense of kind of a modern touch to the piece. And so that's one way we can do it. And you could save it. You could do all sorts of different shades and tones and colors and kind of get that nice single or dual ink kind of effect like you'd see on a screen printed t-shirt. And what's great about the duotone effect is it's only 2 inks, so you can easily get this printed on a t-shirt and it's only using 2 inks, which kind of reduces the cost. But next I'm going to show you a different approach to add even more dynamic color, to add multiple colors or as many as you want. So I'm going to go back into my history to before we started to do the duotone effect. So that, I believe that would be right about, we'd add some brightness and contrast. We converted it to grayscale. Let's go ahead and go back. So now it's no longer in grayscale. If you go to image mode, it's on RGB. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a new layer. So I have our layer panel out. We're going to add a new layer. Now let's just call this overlay. And we are going to make this a blending mode. It's going to be the overlay blending mode. And we've done this effect a little bit in other lessons that I've taught and other lessons in this course. So we're going to do the same effect. We have an overlay. We're just going to grab a brush And let's do our soft round brush. Let's make it fairly large. So probably definitely in the thousands. So maybe let's try 1500. Let's go ahead and manually type that in. It's pretty good. Maybe even make it bigger. Let's make it 2000. Let's go all out. So 2000, nice big brush. And so I'm going to do a similar effect. I can do kind of some cool tones and warm tones. So I'm just going to kind of pick a random kind of cool purple tone. I'm going to click anywhere up here, and you can kind of see a little bit of that color popping out. And you can create really cool dynamic effects. So let's go ahead and pick a warm color. So now we're going to pick you could create a new layer and put it on overlay so you can have control over specific colors, or you can keep all this on one layer. It just depends on how much control you want to have over the piece. So right now I'm just kind of clicking on areas I think would make a dynamic pop. Let's do kind of an orange tone. And so you could do any wide variety of colors. And what's great about having this on a separate layer, if I don't like it, I could just throw it in the trash can. I can create a new layer and start over. So let's start over and do a different appearance. So I think it would be neat to almost have a sunset. So maybe have some bright oranges up here, and then kind of work our way up the color wheel here and do kind of a pink tone here in the middle. And then we can go down and get a little deeper and do some purples, almost like creating a sunset. And then finally grabbing some blues. And then finally getting a dark blue to kind of have the effect of a sunset. So that's pretty bright and dynamic, and we can always back off the opacity a little bit if we don't want it to be super strong. We can have it be really subtle like this. Or we can have it be super strong like this. But I think I'm just going to back it off just a little bit, or I can go up to image adjustments and just kind of mess around with exposure or brightness and contrast to kind of brighten it and kind of add your own effects. And I am on the overlay layer, so we have the overlay blending mode on. So I'm just adjusting that. Go to hue and saturation. We can reduce the saturation that way. We could change the hue, and that'll give us quite a range of colors. Let's go back to what we had and mess with lightness. So whatever you want to do with your piece is great. Experiment and kind of do what you think looks right for what you're doing. If you want to do something bright and vivid like this, or do something with a single or two inks to have kind of a screen printed t-shirt effect, you can do that too. So I just wanted to kind of show you the process of creating this piece of digital art. Super popular right now. My suggestion would be to grab photos that have light backgrounds and to use that lighten. I'm going to click on this. That lighten blending mode to kind of get the effect of how it's cropped, how I showed you earlier in the lesson. And of course, if you get one with a darker background, you're going to experiment with different blending modes. But I've had better luck using lighter backgrounds, and you'll notice that with a lot of these double exposures you see online, a lot of them have white backgrounds because it's a lot easier to work with the lighter backgrounds with the blending modes than it is very dark black backgrounds. So that's my little tip. Hopefully you've enjoyed this quick little project.